I will call to order this April meeting of the Bloomington Board of Park Commissioners. And I am at home and we are without Israel, but we do have a quorum, 3 out of 4. So we can go ahead and start the meeting. And could we have the roll call, please, Kim?
Yes. Kathleen Mills.
Here.
Ellen Rodkey.
Here.
Jim Whitlatch.
Here.
Okay. All right. And then our first item today. Actually, before we mention the consent calendar, I just wanted to say to Paula and everyone how much I enjoyed looking through the program guide. I was going to get my little Post-it notes out and start marking some things that I wanted to do this summer. So as usual, it looks really good. All right, and then we will move into the consent calendar, or section A. So this has the minutes from the March meeting and claims submitted, non-reverting budget amendments, some other business office items, and then some either repeating contracts or smaller contracts that we've had in the past. So do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll move to approve.
Move to second.
Okay. And Kim, could we have the roll call for the vote, please?
Kathleen Mills.
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey.
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Okay. Motion is carried. And then next up in our section B, the public hearings and appearances, we have a Bravo Award that Julie Ramey will tell us about.
Good afternoon. I am Julie Ramey, the Community Relations Manager for the City of Bloomington Parks and Recreation Department, and it is my privilege to be here today to recognize an outstanding volunteer with the Bravo Award. The Bloomington Parks and Recreation Department would like to recognize Don Eggert with this month's award. This is in recognition of his commitment to invasive plant management and trash pickup at the department's weed wrangles 3 times a week at Lower Cascades, Latimer Woods, and Southeast Parks. Jillian Field, our department's Urban Green Space Outreach Coordinator, says it best when it comes to Don. Jillian says she has been so inspired by Don's persistence in controlling Asian bush honeysuckle. His attendance, support, and reliability have helped her grow as a leader and gain the confidence needed to commit to creating public weed wrangles as a way of recreation and service. Don is the center of a ripple effect that touches people and their wish to take immediate action and make a difference in their community. Don has been a Bloomington resident since 1974. He is retired from Ivy Tech, but has also been a geologist with the Indiana Geologic Survey and has worked at Indiana University on the Concerned Scientist track. We are eternally grateful for Don's commitment and service to his community. Don, you want to come on up? Certificate.
Thank you.
And your, of course, I'm sure it never rains on a weed wrangle, and there's your umbrella. Thank you so much. Would you like to say a few words?
Yes, I'm also on the city's environmental commission, and we are about to launch our wildlife corridor project. And when I first joined the board, or the commission rather, I discovered one of my coworkers was the city's staff member that oversaw the board. And one of the projects that she, since I used to work with her at the State Geologic Survey, I was kind of surprised. I didn't realize she was with the city, naive me. But she explained to me the concept of they were then trying to establish this wildlife corridor project, which then got pushed back because of the Uniform Development Ordinance, as then by, of course, the pandemic. But this, working with the city parks, working with MC Iris, is part of reestablishing and restoring the city parks, which are along several of the designated wildlife corridors, particularly the Griffey, Lower Cascades, on the west side, Clear Creek, and on the east side, Jackson Creek, which includes both Latimer Woods, Southeast Park, plus the adjacent trails that parallel Sarah Road. So this is, unfortunately, we also see this as a corridor for the invasive plants coming in from the city, and hopefully someday maybe the native plants will go in the other direction back into the city, and natives supporting the native species. And this weekend, I saw my 4th deer sighting in 3 years in working in the park, a buck, which surprises me since the deer in southeast or Sycamore Knolls is basically a daily event. Seeing them in the park is novel. Well, thank you for the recognition. I must acknowledge also the volunteers from Sycamore Knolls and the IU and our local schools that have all participated in this work. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Don, for both helping volunteering with invasive species, and also I think Julie mentioned trash pickup, also very important for the area. So thank you for your dedication. And all right, and then next up, we're going to meet a couple of new employees, some staff introductions. Is Julie also going to take care of those, or?
All right. Well, I am really happy to be here this afternoon. I'm Emily Carrico. I'm the new Health and Wellness Coordinator for the Parks and Rec Department. As a Bloomington native, I've long benefited from the city of Bloomington, even more specifically the Parks and Rec Department. So I grew up next to Bryan Park and just have endless fond memories of playing on the playgrounds and the movie nights and enjoying the wildlife. So I attended Indiana University and graduated with a Bachelor's of Applied Science in Dietetics and a Food Studies certificate. During my time at IU, I raced in the Little 500, interned at Wilde at Muir Garden, and interned with the Indiana Sustainability Development Program. After graduation, I pursued my registered dietitian credential in Corvallis, Oregon at Oregon State University with a focus on community nutrition. So I returned back to Bloomington and previously worked as a patient services manager at IU Health Bloomington Hospital. So I'm very excited to be able to combine my interests in nutrition, physical activity, and well-being in my new role, and I'm really excited to be able to do that in the community that means so much to me. So I really look forward to working with the Parks Department and also working for the city of Bloomington.
All right, welcome, Emily. And also, I will just say, as someone who has seen you grow up in the park there, it's nice to have you as part of the Parks Department. So, all right, and then Emily Book, Community Relations Coordinator, I think is up next.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Emily Book, and I'm the new Community Relations Coordinator. I graduated from IU Bloomington in May of 2021. I majored in nonprofit management and had a minor in law and public policy. I'm originally from the Fort Wayne area, a very rural area, so a lot of my childhood was spent outdoors with my sisters, seeing what we could get into outside. So I'm really excited to be able to step into this role and hopefully help the Parks Department be available for kids in this community as well. Thank you.
All right, welcome, Emily. Nice to have you aboard. And then Cassia LeBron Williams from the Banneker Program, Facility Coordinator.
Yes, and you said my name right, so thank you.
Oh, good.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cassia LeBron Williams. I am from South Bend, Indiana. I attended IU, and there I received my degree in youth development. During undergrad and post-graduation, I received my experience within youth and family services, within before and after school care, hospitals, psych clinics, and I also joined AmeriCorps in Newark, New Jersey, and within the school systems. So I am very excited to be here, excited to be a part of this department, and just learn more about you all and what we do and how we could serve the community and the Banneker Center. Thank you all for having me.
Well, welcome again, Cassia. That sounds like a really some great background, and Banneker has been doing some really dynamic things. So I'm sure that you'll have a good experience there. And then finally in this section, Brenda McLaughlin, customer service representative, who is retiring. Paula's gonna tell us about Brenda.
Oh, let's give her a round of applause before we even start. Good afternoon. I'm Paula McDevitt, Director of the Department, and it is a great honor to stand before you this evening to recognize Brenda McLaughlin, who is retiring, and we are so happy for her. But she's leaving us after 23 years of customer service work here with the department, and that is a critical role if you've been in our main office. Not only does Brenda support the staff with daily deposits, RecTrack, she's a RecTrack, our program registration genius, and program registrations, deposits, anything that staff need, and then also our customer service, so answering phones, answering questions for our participants, you name it. Brenda is doing it in the front office, and that staff work very, very closely together. There are 4 staff that sit up there, so this is a very difficult week for all of us. So I'm not going to make it too emotional, but I do have a staff report that we collected a few words from her fellow staff members that I will be gifting my staff report to Brenda for her memory book, but just a few things that some of our staff have said about Brenda. I only worked with Brenda for a short amount of time, but she was so helpful and welcoming to me. She always answered all of my many questions and made my first weeks that much easier. Brenda is the rock of the whole office. She's loyal and hardworking, but also caring and funny. She taught me a lot and always made sure to support me and help me when I needed it. She kept me sane through my time here, and I will definitely miss having her around every day. Brenda has been a pleasure to work with and has always been eager to help with whatever needs to be done. She will be greatly missed, and we wish her all the best in retirement. Brenda is a steadfast, loyal coworker. She always responds super fast and is patient with me while I navigate the registration process for Kids City. Brenda is always eager to help customers and staff. She's very good at figuring out who to ask and where to find information. Her positive and even-keeled approach, even in stressful situations, is very much appreciated. And that's just a sampling of several comments that our staff. So we'd like to take a few minutes and recognize Brenda and thank her for her many, many years of dedicated service to the community and to our staff. Brenda?
Thank you very much. It's kind of been a long journey. I actually started in Community and Family Resources and worked with the child care grant there for 4 years, and then Parks kindly took me on, and that first picture up there was when I worked up front, and I kind of just moved my way back. But my daughter has interned here. I actually have our grandson signed up for summer basketball camp, so I think everyone will still see me around at places, but I really appreciate everyone, and you guys are my family, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Brenda. I really enjoyed reading the quotes here that Paula collected and the level of organization, and I especially liked Kim's comment that you were able to track the path of a sale of candy from when and where it was sold all the way to the 25 cents being deposited in the bank. That is some very enviable organizational skill. So thank you and enjoy your retirement. Okay, and then we will move over into section C, other business. And our first item is the review of a park suspension appeal. And Paula will tell us about that.
Thank you. Staff recommends upholding the park suspension issue to Matthew Mulligan on April 6, 2022. Just some background information. Suspension from policy Park 2015 provides a process for removal and suspension from use of a property owned and operated by the City of Bloomington Parks and Recreation Department. This policy was used in the issuance of a suspension for 90 days to Matthew Mulligan on April 6th due to interactions at the park maintained, the Ferguson Dog Park maintained by the Parks Department. In your packet was included the Park Policy 2050, the Parks Incident Report, the affidavit, the letter of suspension. And to further discuss the issue, City Attorney Mike Rooker is present to address the board.
Thank you, board members. Michael Rooker, I'm the city attorney for the city. I'm going to briefly just present some of the evidence that's already in your packet related to this park suspension order. And then I believe Mr. Mulligan is here as well. He may have some comments for the board. From time to time, when a member of the public violates parks rules, the parks director issues an order temporarily suspending the violator from using any parks facilities. This is called a temporary park suspension, and these suspensions are issued in accordance with rules promulgated by this board. Unfortunately, the director of the Parks Department, Director McDevitt, had to issue a temporary suspension earlier this month to Matthew Mulligan following incidents at the Ferguson Dog Park. In your packet, you'll find relevant information, including an incident report, as she mentioned, a sworn affidavit from Clark Delisle, one of Mr. Mulligan's targets, so you'll find that information. Mr. Delisle, along with Detective Rob Shrake from the Bloomington Police Department, are present virtually today in the event the board has questions for them following the presentation by each of the parties here. Detective Rob Shrake was the detective who investigated the incidents. Mr. Delisle's affidavit describes the incidents that gave rise to the suspension order issued by Director McDevitt. First, on March 21st, 2022, as Mr. Delisle was exiting the dog park and getting his dog to his vehicle, his dog was loose and began running up and down the park fence opposite Mr. Mulligan's dogs. Mr. Mulligan accosted Mr. Delisle and verbally berated him while his dogs were running. Mr. Mulligan filmed Mr. Delisle and took down Mr. Delisle's license plate number and followed Mr. Delisle into the parking lot yelling at him. While this incident must have been jarring, Mr. Delisle did not contact law enforcement on March 21st. However, just a couple of weeks later, when Mr. Delisle again visited the dog park, Mr. Mulligan showed up. On April 6th, 2022, as Mr. Delisle was trying to leave the dog park, Mr. Mulligan pulled his vehicle up behind Mr. Delisle and physically blocked him from exiting. As before, Mr. Mulligan used loud, threatening language towards Mr. Delisle. This harassment, particularly combined with a previous incident, was concerning enough that Mr. Delisle contacted law enforcement and an investigation was initiated by Detective Shrake. The very same day, on April 6th, Director McDevitt issued an order suspending Mr. Mulligan from all parks facilities for 90 days. Mr. Mulligan's conduct clearly violates Parks Policy 2050. That policy prohibits behavior that interferes with other persons' ability to use a park or a park's facility. The kind of harassment detailed in Mr. Delisle's sworn statement clearly qualifies under this policy. Mr. Delisle and Detective Shrake are both here today, as I mentioned before, virtually, if the board has additional questions for either of them. We ask that the board uphold Director McDevitt's decision to suspend Mr. Mulligan from all parks facilities for 90 days, and that you adopt the proposed findings included in your packet. Happy to answer any questions if the board has any.
Okay. All right. Just to clarify, I have Clark Delisle's statement here, but just to clarify, the incident report that's also included, that's a separate incident, right? With a different park visitor who felt unsafe? Is that?
separate incident related to a female patron. Mr. Delisle
Right.
is not female, so.
Okay, so that's a separate time. Okay, all right, thank you. Any questions from other board members for the city attorney? Okay, or questions for the police officer that we
Just a
have
real
on Zoom? I
Quick
believe?
question, who's here in person and who's here virtually?
So Detective Rob Shrake and Clark Delisle are both here virtually.
Okay, okay. All right.
Right.
I may have some questions after hearing from the appealing party for the other two, but I don't have any questions right now.
Okay,
Good afternoon. Thank you for your time. I haven't seen these documents you reference. I have no idea what they say. On 3/22, I was accused of verbally berating a gentleman whose dog was loose outside the fence and running up and down the fence. My dogs loved it. His dog was out of control. And I simply said to him, this is why we leash our dogs in and out of the fence. The park's utilized by so many different people, so many different levels of dog training. I always keep my dogs leashed to and from the park. And here was a situation where this dog was wild and did run the full length of the fence, untethered. And I made a mention of it, and he took exception to it. And I told him that his dog was out of control, simply, obviously.
okay, all right. Are there any questions for Mr. Mulligan or?
The second part with this April 6th leaving, pulled vehicle in, threatening, I would like the evidence because a police officer came to my house that day and had no evidence and then called me. The police came because I think I spoke with you at the park. Were you the park officer, animal control, that we had a chat? I gave her my name. 2 days later, I came to the park, and that's when the Shrake or broke, the policeman called me and said, I followed these individuals home, that I took a different route, which to me sounds like they're stalking me. Well, how do they know what route I take home? I live like 0.6 of a mile from the park, just right above the park. So my point is this. I get a call from a policeman that says, I've harassed somebody, and then he's going to come and swore out a warrant at downtown to have me arrested over intimidation. Where is the picture? Where is the evidence that they said they had photographic evidence of me following them? I never did. It's untrue. It's piling on, and it's unfair. And it's unsubstantiated, and I'd like to talk to the cop.
Okay, I don't know if,
I just want him to acknowledge he has no evidence at all, nothing, other than their
okay,
statements.
all right, do we have Detective Shrake on virtually here?
Yeah, Detective Shrake here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Okay, so I think what Mr. Mulligan's talking about, I'd be happy to talk to about it in this forum if it's appropriate. I'm at the police department. What he's referencing is not what you're dealing with here today in regards to the suspension, I don't believe. Mr. Merker might be able to answer that, excuse me, that piece. But when he's referencing the follow-up phone call and the following home, if he wants to discuss that in the park board, I just don't believe that that is occurred in the park instance, and that is why the suspension is in effect. The other things that we're talking about are the park suspension, not the following home, and the evidence that he's talking about. And if you want to discuss that with me, I'd be happy to talk to him either in person or on the phone or right here if that's preferred. I just don't think that's a park matter at this time.
So
Yes.
I'm having trouble understanding what he said. What is the
Well,
evidence?
There's no mention in the report that we have of anybody following anyone home, or the incidents that we have are yelling about the unleashed dog, then coming back a few weeks later to block in someone's car who can't leave the dog park. And then we have a separate incident from another patron saying that she felt unsafe and threatened by you. So those are the 3 incidents that we have.
And on the
outlined.
second, this leaving, pulled in, threatening, this is the one that's, the policeman is involved that has no evidence of that. No.
So
I was suspended by then.
Okay, so there, when it says next month, I was, that you came into the park and on April 6th, around 9 o'clock, and pulled in behind his vehicle. You were not there on that day?
That was not me. No, I did not pull in behind the individual. And in this age of cell phones and with this level of distrust, one would think there'd be photographs of my lovely Mulligan mug. And I did not do this, and I appeal for my dogs because it's so unfair that they're not able to go to dog park. We can go at a different time, we can go alternate days, but the animals enjoy the park so much. I've been a responsible park patron. I pick up my poop. The lady that I said, hey, you wouldn't have such a fat ass if you went after your dog and picked up your poop, well, I apologized to her. But sitting there reading a book while your dog poop, I don't think, I'm kind of a person who thinks, I mean, I walk in the park, the first thing I do is I walk to the end of the park because I know right where my dog's gonna go. And I just feel like all of us need to contribute to our park.
Okay, we have,
Mike, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah.
Just to respond, Board Member Whitlatch, I might ask if I could ask Clark Delisle a question very quickly.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm here.
Thanks, Clark. Clark, I just want to ask you really quickly, on April 6th, 2022, as mentioned in your sworn statement, were you at the Ferguson Dog Park?
Yeah, I was.
Did you see Mr. Mulligan at the park on April 6th, 2022?
Yes, I did.
Did he physically block your vehicle from exiting the dog park on April 6th, 2022?
He pulled in and parked behind my girlfriend's car, yes.
That's all I have.
Did he complain about out-of-state licenses during that encounter?
Yes, he did.
And that was, there's no doubt in your mind that that was him on that date?
I see the same man in the same car every morning. I really don't have any doubt.
And did he get out of the car or did he stay in the car?
On that occasion, no. He pulled in, we were heading to leave, and he rolled his window down and said something about our out-of-state plates and that he had a friend that was a police officer that was going to come somehow punish us for having an out-of-state plate, and then he sped off. But he didn't exit the vehicle, no.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is convoluting a couple of the same instances. The out-of-state plates, when I saw where he got in his car and I finally got my dogs out, I said, wouldn't it be nice if Missourians contributed to our community's roads? In Indiana, when you rent a place, because I own a REIT, a real estate Mulligan group, we own apartments all over, 30 days you have to register your car in Indiana and contribute to our roads. And that was the message of the license plate. It wasn't a separate day. It was the day of the dogs running. Thank you.
I don't have any other questions.
Okay. All right. Ellen, any questions?
I don't have questions. Thank you, Kathleen.
Okay. All right. So we are voting that we approve, that we are turning down the park suspension appeal. So a vote of aye is that we want to sustain the park suspension for 90 days. So we have a motion for that?
I would move to adopt the findings of facts that have been proposed in packet, and I would move that we adopt that, which will uphold the suspension through the 90-day period through July 5th of 2022.
I will second that motion.
All right, and a roll call vote, please, Kim?
Kathleen Mills.
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey.
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
All right, motion is carried. All right, and then we will move along to item C3, which is a final authorization for the bond issuance for Park District. Paula will tell us about that one.
Good afternoon, Paula McDevitt, Director, City of Bloomington Parks and Recreation Department. It is recommended that after receiving public comment at this legally advertised public hearing portion of the meeting, that the Board of Park Commissioners adopt the final bond resolution 2203 to authorize the issuance of Park District bonds in order to promote climate change and implement equity and quality of life for all. Just a brief background, at your special meeting held on March 30th, 2022, you approved the declaratory resolution 2202, titled Declaratory Resolution Approving Projects of the Park District of the City of Bloomington, Indiana, and making a preliminary decision to issue bonds to finance costs of the projects in the amount not to exceed $5,800,000. The project list includes from Resolution 2203 to replace the missing sidewalk at Rogers Street by Switchyard Park, implementation of West 2nd Street modernization, design and right-of-way for North Dunn Street multi-use path, addition of a protected bike lanes along Covenanter Drive, and Griffey Lake Trail dam crossing and community access improvements. This project list, resolution, and ordinance was reviewed and approved by the City of Bloomington Common Council on Wednesday, April 20th, 2022. And for a brief presentation on the projects, we have Beth Rosenbarger, I believe. Oh, yes. She's here virtually. Okay. Beth and Beth.
Can I jump in for just a second before you go on with the presentation? This is Beth Kay, Corporation Counsel. I just wanted to note, thank you, Paula, that this is the public hearing on the bonds, but I believe that you will need to postpone a vote on this because you don't have 3 people physically present at the meeting. And under state code, it takes 3 people present to take final action that would, excuse me, raise the tax, and the debt service on the bonds is paid for through a property tax rate. So I think what you might need to do is go ahead with the public hearing tonight and the presentation and so on, and then postpone a vote of the board to either a special meeting or the next regular Parks meeting.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, Beth. All right, so I guess we will go ahead with Beth Rosenbarger with the presentation and have our vote at a different time to be announced soon, I hope.
Hey, hi, thanks. Ms. McDevitt, are there slides that are going to be shown at the same time?
No. Go ahead, Beth, and just talk about the projects.
Okay, thank you. So we presented just a couple weeks ago, and we have 3 projects sort of spearheaded by the Planning and Transportation Department, and I'll talk about one from the Engineering Department. The first one is called the East Covenanter Protected Bike Lane Project, and it would design and build a protected bike lane on East Covenanter from College Mall Road to Clarice Boulevard. And that project includes other improvements such as sidewalk improvements, improving ramp accessibility, and bus stop improvements as well. The next project is a North Dunn Street multi-use path, and that project runs on North Dunn Street from the bypass north to connect with the existing multi-use path that ends near Old 37. This project would design the multi-use path, and we would be looking to construct it later with grant funding or other funding from the state or federal funding options. And that path would be mostly on the east side of the road and would connect a lot of people up to the Griffey Lake Nature Preserve. And the third project I'm presenting is, but not third project, not total, is the West 2nd Street bike lane. So this is on West 2nd Street and goes from the B line and west to Walker. This is adjacent to the Building and Trades Park and the hospital redevelopment site. This project will construct protected bike lanes, and it will look at sidewalk improvements, sidewalk crossing improvements, any bus stop improvements that would happen, as well as replacing and upgrading 2 traffic signals. That project also received federal funding, and this will be part of the match for that federal funding. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Beth. Yes, and we had, at our special meeting, we were able to get details, see pictures and plans for all of these projects. So Paula, should we just, I guess we're putting this off for a vote then until a special meeting or the May meeting?
Am I on? Hi, Kathleen. Tim Street,
Yes,
Operations
hi.
Director for Parks. I can also briefly cover the 2 projects that are in there that Parks can represent. Board members, I know
Okay.
you've heard about these before, so we don't have to go into as much detail, but the 2 remaining in the bond would be the replacement of the missing Rogers Street sidewalk at a $200,000 funding level. That is right next to Switchyard Park. And the other project that you would be familiar with is the Griffey Dam Loop Crossing, restoring that at a cost of $375,000. So completing that part of the project that was value engineered out of the Griffey Loop Trail project in the fall when we accepted bids and authorized the contract for that project.
Okay, thank you, Tim. All right, so are there any other questions for people, for Tim or Beth or other people who are on here to answer bond-related questions? Okay. All right. Well, as I said, we've had a chance to look at these over and ask a lot of questions in our special meeting. So I guess at this point, we will move on to C4.
Sorry, Kathleen, this
Yeah.
is the public hearing.
Oh, okay.
So you do want to go ahead and hold the public hearing on this.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm not quite clear on what do we do for that then?
Just asking for public input.
Oh, okay, sure.
This has already been noticed as the public hearing.
Okay, all right, thank you. Yeah, so do we have any public comments on Zoom or Facebook Live or there in person? Take just a second, and Kim can check and see if we have anybody
There's
online
nothing
who'd
in my
like to
email,
comment.
Kathleen.
Sorry?
There's no public input in my email.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And it doesn't look like there's any raised hands.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you for that, Beth. Yeah, so then is there anything else that needs to be a part of this process, or we move along and then vote at a later date?
I think you will, yeah, just go ahead and reconvene at a later date for your vote.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. And then Aaron Hatch will tell us about contract with Bluestone Tree for tub grinding and disposal of wood waste generated by urban forestry.
Hello, Aaron Hatch, Urban Forester. This is the first of, I think, 3 different items on tonight's agenda regarding to urban forestry.
If you've never gone to our Ferguson Dog Park, you may notice that there is a separate little nursery area that we utilize to store our trees, but also we use as a temporary waste yard for various tree activities such as removal or pruning. A lot of this is not stuff that we can chip and use within our park, and instead has piled up and accumulated over the course of numerous years. I am presenting and requesting approval for a contract with Bluestone Tree for grinding of this accumulated wood waste, along with hauling off and disposing of the generated chips, etc. This would be for a total of $15,200 coming from our contractual budget line. And it would be to be completed by the end of this year.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Aaron. Any questions for Aaron about this?
I don't have any questions. Thanks, Aaron.
No questions.
Okay. We have a motion to approve.
I will move to approve the contract with Bluestone Tree.
Second?
All right. And the roll call vote, please, Kim.
Kathleen Mills,
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey,
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Okay. That motion is unanimously approved. And then Aaron will stay with us to tell us about, next up, the partnership agreement with Canopy Bloomington for Youth Tree Tenders Program.
Erin Hatch again. I am recommending approval for a partnership agreement with Canopy Bloomington, a nonprofit here that focuses on urban forestry. This would be similar to our kind of Centerstone partnership, where they would hire, recruit, and oversee employment of about 4 teenage employees over the course of the summer to conduct various tree work on trees within Switchyard Park. This would be for approximately the course of 10 weeks, including mulching, some small tree pruning overseen by certified arborists, watering, and various other work. This would be for a very reduced cost of about $7,320.80 for the course of the summer. This would include the wages for those youth employees, along with some various materials in order to help them work within the park. We would provide them with kind of guidance on where to go, things like that. But otherwise, all day-to-day operations would be overseen by Canopy Bloomington. This is coming from the ARPA funds and kind of combines both our needs for care and maintenance of our trees in our parks, especially this brand new park, but also green workforce development goals.
Okay. All right. Sounds like it's very innovative to have these high school age students working on this in Switchyard. So any questions for Erin?
I will note that a representative from Canopy Bloomington is here if you have questions for her as well.
Okay. Thank you.
No,
I don't have any questions. Go ahead.
I have no questions. Kathleen, I think it sounds like a great partnership. Have read up a little bit about Canopy and what they're doing in Bloomington, and great that we can partner with them.
No questions. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we'll take a motion to approve this one.
Yeah, I'll move to approve that partnership agreement with Canopy Bloomington.
Second?
And the roll call vote, please.
Kathleen Mills,
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey,
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
All right, motion is approved. And then finally, Erin will tell us about the contract with Urban Canopy Works for development of storm response plan.
Staff is recommending approval of a contract with Urban Canopy Works for creation of an urban forestry storm response plan. We were lucky enough to receive an Indiana Department of Natural Resources grant last year to help fund this, and we will be funding it partially through that and through matching funds in our general fund. This would be to create both an kind of in-house guidance along with some communication to the public about where we clean up storm-related debris, how we clean up, and kind of prioritization and coordination between the various departments that may handle this, including urban forestry within parks, the street department, and any other parties that might be, responsible for getting emergency vehicles to where they need to be or access to resources that we would need post-storm.
And this would
Okay.
be for a total of $8,800, and that would be split between the grant funding that we've received and our general fund.
Okay, all right, Erin, and this sounds like a really excellent idea to me, especially given that we've had some stronger storms the last several years, and there is often a lot of tree damage, and I'm sure that people are not always sure who to call or who's going to be coming and taking care of it. So it sounds like a really good idea. So any questions for Erin about this item?
No questions.
No questions.
Okay. And do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'll move to approve the contract with Urban Canopy Works.
Second?
And the roll call vote, please, Kim?
Kathleen Mills,
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey,
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
All right, motion is carried. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Erin. And next up in item C7 will be a review of a contract with Carpets Plus Color Tile for new carpet at the Banneker Community Center. Leslie Brenson.
Hello, Leslie Brenson. I'm the Community Events Manager. I'm filling in on a Banneker role today, here to get approval of a contract, as you said, with Carpet Plus Color Tile for new carpet, both on the third floor and in the library at the Banneker Community Center. The contract would include the removal of the old carpet, a laying of a new subfloor, and then the laying of a new carpet. The carpet replacement is being paid for with a donation to the Banneker Center that is currently being housed in the Parks Foundation, and the contract is roughly $16,200. The Banneker Center has worked with Carpet Plus Color Tile for previous carpet replacements and new flooring, both in the kitchen and previous carpet on the third floor. Always been happy with their work, and they are eager to get started and eager to get that carpet replaced. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I will also say that we are still awaiting their affirmative action plan, and so you will be approving the contract today with the contingency of us receiving an approved affirmative action plan, which we expect at any time. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Leslie. I don't have any questions. I don't know if other board members do.
No questions. Grateful for a donation through the Parks Foundation to help fund the project.
No questions?
Okay, and do we have a motion then?
I'll move to approve the contract with Carpet Plus Color Tile.
Second?
All right, and the roll call vote, please, Kim?
Kathleen Mills,
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey,
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
All right, motion is carried. And then Leslie will stay with us to tell us about a park policies update of the mission statement.
Yes, so again, Leslie Brinson, Community Events Manager. One of my other roles is to help manage our policy manual to make sure that it is up to date, and this is also part of our accreditation standards. As you recall, last month we updated our mission statement as well as our values. So these three policies had those mission statements and values included in them. So I recommend the approval of updates made to Policy 1020, our mission statement, Policy 1030, the mission, philosophy, and objective statement, and Policy 1080, our meeting values. Again, these updates are all and only related to the improved mission statement and values statement approved at the March Park Board meeting. The policy manual guides the procedures and processes for the department, and it's periodically updated as processes and things change. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Leslie. Yeah, I think we talked about this and saw some of the details before, and it looks good. So I don't have any questions.
No questions.
Any other questions?
No questions.
Okay, and do we have a motion?
We'll move to approve the park policy update for policies 1020, 1030, 1080.
Second?
Okay, and a roll call vote, please.
Kathleen Mills,
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey,
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Okay, motion is carried. Thank you, Leslie. And then, since it's spring, looking ahead to summer, Bill Ream will tell us about a contract with Wilde Security for 4th of July parade and concerts and other events.
Hi, Bill Ream, Community Events Coordinator. I'm here to recommend a contract for services with Bruce Wilde Security for the 4th of July Parade and other events this summer and maybe into the fall. We are recommending the approval of the contract for the 4th of July Parade, some concerts, and some other various community events as needed. The contract is not to exceed $6,600, and that is paid for from various community events and the 4th of July Parade and a couple other related accounts. We have utilized Bruce Wilde Security for security services for many years. He has been part of the 4th of July Parade longer than I've been. So I'm guessing 15 years or more. And he's kind of one of my right-hand folks as far as running the parade. We also will be helping him, asking him to do some security at concerts, the happy hours on the lawn, which are where alcohol is served, and he did that last year as well. And we've worked, like I said, we've worked with him a very long time, and we're very happy with his work. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have about this contract.
Okay, all right. And the parade will be back to, I know it has to have a slightly different route, but it will be back, right? It won't be
Yes,
in
it is back,
stationary.
a traditional parade downtown. It will be right now, the initial approval is to go north and south on College and Walnut between Kirkwood and 10th. We got to get some of the final approvals out there and the applications, but that's the initial approval from the Public Works and the Police Department.
Okay, all right.
I don't have any questions. Thanks.
Yeah, I don't either. Okay, do we have a motion for this one?
I'll move to approve a contract with Bruce Wilde Security.
I will second.
All right, and a roll call vote, please.
Kathleen Mills,
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey,
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Thanks.
All right, motion carried. Thank you, Bill. And then Tim Street is back to tell us about an MOU with the city utilities regarding a berm at Switchyard Park.
Good afternoon again, Park Commissioners. Tim Street, Operations Director for Parks. I'm here tonight to present to you for approval and recommend approval of a memorandum of understanding with City of Bloomington Utilities. This is in regards to berm 16, which is the large berm of coal ash that has been appropriately mitigated and covered along Walnut Street at the site of the old Wee Willie's restaurant. Got to get that in there. This MOU basically lays out responsibilities between City of Bloomington Utilities and in fact has already been approved by City of Bloomington Utilities Board regarding any potential future replacement of a sewer main that runs underneath of berm 16. When it was constructed, it did place additional cover over that sewer main, which will make it potentially more difficult to replace that sewer main. However, in negotiating this with City of Bloomington Utilities, we also did discuss appropriate exploration of alternative methods of replacement if and when it comes to that day. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay. All right. I don't have any questions about berm 16. So are there other board members?
No, glad to know. It's called berm 16.
Can we rename it?
Yeah.
Willie's berm.
Wee Willie's berm?
Yeah.
Whatever you like.
Better than the other place we could rename it.
The other place is gone.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. So we have a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve the MOU with the City of Bloomington Utilities for berm 16.
I second.
All right. And a roll call vote, please.
Kathleen Mills,
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey,
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. Motion carried. Thank you, Tim. And then up next, Barb Dunbar will tell us about the contract with E&B Paving for road resurfacing at Rosehill Cemetery.
Good afternoon, Barb Dunbar, Operations Coordinator. Well, let me just start out by saying there's at least one other person in this room who is excited to see this project come alive finally. Our staff recommends approval of a contract with E&B Paving for asphalt resurfacing and some removal of existing curbing and asphalt in the old Spencer addition at Rosehill Cemetery. So I've put in the budget for the last 5 years for this, and we finally got that approved. However, well, I'll get to that a little bit later, I guess. But the amount of the contract is $136,000 and $136,335. Resurfacing of the interior roadways of Rosehill Cemetery has been a request for the last 5 years. I'm sorry. Finally, in '22, the request came through, and the budget request was for just $120,000. So we knew 5 years later that probably wouldn't do the entire cemetery. So when I put out the RFQ, if the photo in the upper right shows, I did the RFQ with 5 different sections there. We're going to get, with the money, we'll get the pink and the green section done this year. As well, also funded in this year's budget was the development of a scatter guarding on the existing cemetery property. And that was, we got $40,000 to develop this. This will be a new feature and very unique addition to Rosehill Cemetery in the old Spencer addition where the old fountain once stood. Those are the pictures on the left there. So it's set up perfectly for that type of thing, and the arrows are indicating you can see where all that asphalt that you can drive around that area now will be removed and curbing removed because it will become a whole entire landscaped area for a scatter garden. This center section there will become the scatter area, I guess you could say. Anyway, we included the removal. We thought it would be smart and wise to go ahead and include the removal of that existing curb and asphalt with this contract. So the cost for that is $16,000. And then just a small amount of $335 will come out of the operations general fund budget. So that allows us to get quite a bit done. RFQs for this project were released on March 14th and posted on the Bloomington Plan Room site. The submittal deadline was the Monday, April 11th. We received the specified 5 separate areas, as I mentioned. 2022 funds will allow us to do 2 areas and the scatter gardens. And then again, we will request in the 2023 budget for the remaining 2 sections, the orange and the yellow. We will put in a request for next year's budget and hopefully be able to complete that next year sometime. So I did some research and I tried to find out when last all of these roads were paved. The City Parks and Recreation Department took over operations of the 2 cemeteries, White Oak and Rosehill, in 1997. We know for sure they haven't been done since then. But if you go even further back, I'm estimating it's been easy 30-plus years that these roads have not been resurfaced. So long overdue. They're very rough. There's some really bad spots. As you know, if you've attended graveside services, people get out of their car, they have to walk, and a lot of times it's older persons, but even if you're not an elderly person, it's easy to trip or step in a hole. And we've done a lot of patching over the years, but at this point, it's just time to invest and put some new surfacing down. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
So the $163,000 is to do the pink and green and the scatter garden. Is that correct?
136.
136? I don't know where I saw
It will do the removal of the scatter garden, the curbing and sidewalks, as well as the pink and green sections, everything.
So was that was our plan to do it in steps all along, or did the money change?
5 years ago, I called a contractor just to get a quote to see what it might run, and it was about $120,000. So it has gone
To do the whole thing or just these two
That was
parts?
the whole thing at the time, but that was a rough estimate.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, 5 years later, this kind of thing has gone way up. But, he didn't get out there and do all the measurements and everything at that time. He just saw a satellite view of the place and guesstimated that. But I just kept asking, for the same amount. I mean, if I wasn't getting in the first place, I wasn't going to raise the amount. So we knew, but that's okay. And hopefully we will get the funds in the next year's budget to finish her off.
And does this involve mostly just putting down a new layer of asphalt over what's there, or does it involve subsurface work?
Some of the areas will be called, what's called wedge and level, that are really, really, really bad and rough, that they will wedge and level. I learned a lot more about asphalt on this project than I ever dreamed I would, but, and they will have to pour it a lot thicker, or lay it much thicker. So it's one of those things, if we could have done it a few years ago, it may not have been as bad, but you know how that goes, so.
So in theory, it's made to last?
Yes.
Because this isn't something that seems to happen a lot.
Yes, this will be so nice. It will give the cemetery such a nice look, but it'll also present such a safer atmosphere too in there. Not only funerals, but we get, my office window overlooks people coming in and out of the cemetery, and on a nice day, I can see close to 80 people coming in and out of that cemetery, walking dogs, a mother with walking the children into the cemetery, or with a baby stroller. I mean, it's an ideal place to walk. So we have a lot of people coming in and out of there. It'll just be so aesthetically more pleasing as well as safe.
I don't know what it says about me, but it's one of my favorite places to walk because it's quiet, and you can always sit down under a nice shade tree and enjoy the quiet and everything else. So I'm in favor of this, very much so.
Well, good.
No other questions?
All right. If there aren't any other questions, we can take a motion on this one.
Thanks so much, Barb. I'm really happy to move the contract with EMB Paving for this road resurfacing project.
I second.
Thank you.
And a roll call vote, please.
Kathleen Mills.
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey.
Aye.
And Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
All right, motion is carried. Thank you, Barb. I'm glad something finally came through after asking for it for so many times. And next, Steve Cotter will give us a little bit of an update and review of the contract with White Buffalo for another controlled deer hunt at Griffey Lake.
Thank you, Kathleen. I am Steve Cotter, Natural Resources Manager, and I'm here today to ask for your approval of a contract with White Buffalo, Inc. to do another deer hunt out at Griffey this year. We hope to contract with them to do a hunt on the first 2 weekends of firearm season out at Griffey again. We've been doing it for 3 weekends for the past several years, but the program that we were getting funding from to do that has gone away, so we're going to be paying for it out of our non-reverting budget this year. The total cost of the contract would be $22,690. And studies of the deer population at Griffey and in Bloomington in general began with the establishment of the Deer Task Force back in 2011. They reported their findings in 2012, and they recommended that lethal removal be done in the nature preserve to preserve the vegetation there. We did a sharpshoot, we attempted a sharpshoot, I should say, in 2014, but it was unsuccessful due to a large acorn crop that year. We did a sharpshooting effort in 2017 that removed 62 deer from the preserve. We did a CHAP hunt, which is the Community Hunting Access Program hunt, in 2019, which removed 26 deer. And we did a CHAP hunt in 2020 that removed 40 deer from the preserve. Last year, in 2021, the CHAP hunt removed 47 deer. And deer biologists have told us that there should only be about 10 deer in the whole preserve if we want the vegetation to recover to the level that it should. So there's still a lot of deer out there. So we think we need to continue this program for the foreseeable future.
Okay. All right, Steve. And was it that CHAP program that no longer exists? Is that what?
That is correct, yes. The Community Hunting Access Program paid for the last 3 hunts. but this time we'll be doing it with non-reverting funds, mainly from boat rentals and programs down at the Griffey Lake Boathouse. So the timing of the hunt would be November 12th and 13th and November 19th and 20th. Those are the first 2 weekends of deer hunting season. That will also allow people to go out there on Thanksgiving weekend. That's a big tradition for a lot of families to get out on a hike on Thanksgiving weekend, and we have been interfering with that to do the hunts. We're hoping for good weather on those first 2 weekends because we usually do lose 1 weekend to the weather. The participant screening would occur in July or August, and we would get a report by the end of this year. And the participants would be hunters who are licensed in Indiana. They would be vetted, trained, and supervised by White Buffalo, Inc. And White Buffalo is we think, the leading firm on deer biology in the U.S. They are a nonprofit. They do a lot of research, and they really know their stuff. They actually developed the CHAP program for the Indiana Department of Natural Resources, and they trained the CHAP coordinator. So to have them be our hunt coordinator is a real coup. Safety is the first priority of the deer herd reduction effort, and it takes precedence over all other considerations. A private security firm will be hired by the department to patrol the area surrounding Griffey Lake Nature Preserve and to let the public know that the park is closed on those 2 weekends. And the security personnel will be in contact with White Buffalo at all times. We will also be placing signs at all the parking areas and all of the access points that we know of to let people know that the nature preserve will be closed for those 2 weekends. And long-term, we're trying to maintain the deer herd in numbers that will allow the understory forest vegetation to recover. We have been monitoring that for several years, and each year we see a slight improvement in the plant heights, which indicate the fitness of those plants and their ability to reproduce. So we're trying to get them back up to their full stature so that they can reproduce, and we will continue to have these important understory plants and trees in the preserve. And we will continue collecting that data to determine how we should proceed in the future with these hunts or not. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Do we,
Okay.
do we know how effective, is the way we're measuring that how the plants are doing, or are we able to do some kind of census of the deer to determine? I know they don't cooperate with that, but how do we know how many deer, if the goal is to get to 10, how do we know when we're there?
Well, we are looking specifically at the plants. There are 2 schools of thought on that. Some people would like us to do a deer count, but that's not the whole picture. We don't know if there are a lot of deer eating for a short amount of time each in the preserve, or if it's a fewer number of deer eating full-time in the preserve. So they come and go, of course. They are very difficult to count, and it's expensive. We would prefer to spend the money that we have available to address the problem rather than to document it.
And did you say that we're going down to 2 weekends from like a cost management perspective, since we don't have that additional funding any longer?
We've been looking for a few years at reducing the number of weekends to lessen the impact on the hikers. A lot of people like to get out there that time of year and hike, so it's a combination. It is the financial hit that we take by not having that program around anymore, but also we want people to be able to get in the preserve on Thanksgiving Day weekend.
Well, I just listened to a podcast over the weekend, and they were suggesting that the decrease in wolf population in northern states is what has led to an increase in deer population, and then less of vegetation and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So in lieu of bringing wolves in to Griffey Lake, I think this sounds like a good solution.
Well, I would love to do that, but I don't think DNR is going to let us do that.
Probably not. But it was a good podcast. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, I appreciate your comments about the Thanksgiving weekend. I did actually hear from some visitors to Bloomington last Thanksgiving who had planned to go out there and hike, and then happened to just look on the website to see the length of trails and such, and then realized that it was closed, I think. I don't know if it was the actual weekend of Thanksgiving or the one before, or...
It was closed both of those weekends, yeah, so.
Okay.
So we've heard from folks as well, so we're responding to that.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'm glad we're still continuing with the deer culling out there. And I know even though you said it's a small impact, it's, baby steps and keep the progress going. So
Until the wolves come back.
Yeah, right. So do we have, unless we don't have any other questions for Steve, a motion to approve this contract?
Yeah, I'll move to approve the contract with White Buffalo Inc.
Second.
And a roll call vote, please.
Kathleen Mills.
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey.
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Motion is, thank you, Steve. And then finally, under section C, D Tuttle will tell us about the service agreement with Deem LLC.
Good afternoon, D Tuttle, Frank Southern Ice Arena Manager. Today I'm seeking approval of a service agreement with Deem LLC. Deem is a contractor that will come in and repair, adjust, and/or replace mechanical, electrical, and plumbing equipment at the ice arena on an as-needed basis. They are very prompt and specific when they do have to be called to come to the ice arena for service of our equipment. They are a specialty contractor that deals with screw compressors and anhydrous ammonia, which we all know is definitely a specialty, and there are very few companies in the area that can and will come and service our compressors. They've been servicing our equipment for several years. We're happy with their service and their prompt attention. I'll answer any questions.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have any questions. I'm sure as heavily used as that ice rink is, I'm sure you certainly don't want to have an unexpected shutdown. So
absolutely not.
No questions from me.
All right. Do we have a motion to approve this one?
Yeah, well, I'll move to approve the service agreement with Deem.
Second.
And a roll call vote, please.
Kathleen Mills.
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey.
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dee. All right, and then moving into our section D reports, I think with just enough time to conclude before Public Works comes in. So Julie Ramey's going to tell us about the draft of the 2021 annual report.
Good afternoon, Julie Ramey, Community Relations Manager, once again, here as a courtesy to give you a proof copy of the 2021 Parks and Recreation Department Annual Report. The annual report is a collection of unaudited financial data and reports on participation numbers, partnerships, grants, and projects that occurred during 2021. I would ask the park board members to have a look at the copy, the hard copy that you have in front of you, and Kathleen will get you yours for sure to look at, and just let us know if you find anything that needs to be changed or adjusted before we go to a final version. The final approved version will be produced in hard copy for those who want it, and will also be available to the public on our website at bloomington.in.gov/departments/parks, along with previous year's annual reports, master plans, survey results, and other documentation.
If she's trying to say anything.
Sorry. Gosh, it's only been 2 years since I've been on Zoom, and thank you, Julie. We look forward to taking a look at that draft, and then we'll go back over to you, Paula.
Great, thank you very much, board members. Kim and I will be in touch to set a special meeting date to get the approval on the bond resolution, and our next regular scheduled park board meeting is May 24th, and Kim and I will meet Ellen and Jim out at the front for signatures. Okay. And Kathleen will be in touch with you for signatures.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. Thank you. Thank you to everyone. Thank you to Kim for making this hybrid situation work, as always. So, and with that, I'll adjourn the April meeting of the Bloomington Board of Park Commissioners.